Canada is the progressive leader of the world, even when it comes to killing its own citizens. I don't know if we've talked about it before, but Canada's like the leading country in the world for euthanasia right now.
You said, you told me.
We've talked about this before, and
wonderful.
do you all remember when blackface Hitler was trending on Twitter?
Yes.
Yes.
It was one of the.
It was Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau was trending as blackface Hitler because of the blackface images that came out,
Ow.
and he tends to act like Hitler. And if anyone thinks I'm being hyperbolic, if we could just bring up the Forbes article, where they also made the comparison. Because I don't know, people get very sensitive.
No,
there you go.
Wait, Rob, show that. I want people to see that. Hey, guys, look at Rob's phone.
I'm gonna make that my wall.
That's blackface Hitler. That's what they call him. That's the leader of Canada. Go ahead, Dave.
So, like, people get sensitive when you start drawing comparisons between. This isn't Nazi Germany. There were lessons that were learned. When you said never again, it means never again because things don't happen in the exact way, shape, or form, but they tend to rhyme. To quote Mark Twain. And so, the Canada's euthanasia laws.
Can you put that? What is it? Okay.
Laws carry upsetting Nazi-era echoes, warns expert.
Forbes wrote that?
Forbes.
Wow.
Now,
Holy
I just like to say, I was saying it before Forbes. When you, and I'll preface this, like euthanasia is there are circumstances under which it's totally warranted, totally understandable, and everyone should support it. To make someone who's suffering from terminal cancer go through nothing but living hell for whatever's left of their life is one thing. In 2016, the Canadian Supreme Court ruled that denying the right to die with dignity to people was unconstitutional, and it was allowed. Liberal government comes in, makes a law that allows it for terminally ill, mentally ill, which they in the debate they say like, yeah, well, we don't want to deny the right of the mentally ill to kill themselves either, so let's put that in the law, but give it suspend it. We'll stay it for a bit until it was it's been extended a couple times. Bottom line, it's been extended now, the stay on it. So mentally ill cannot euthanize themselves for mental illness alone in Canada until 2027 when this expires. But the bottom line, they've been expanding it to not terminally ill, situations where death is not reasonably foreseeable. They want to expand it to minors. They want to expand it to minors who cannot consent. And if you can show the graph of the growth of the exponential surge of euthanasia in Canada.
Holy
2016, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 5,000. And then look at it, 13,000 in 2022. If you believe that number, and I don't because I don't believe they're counting everybody in it.
Why would you believe that?
Understand, by the way, 13,000 people is 4.1% of all death in Canada is government assisted. In Quebec at one point, it was the third leading cause of death. So that's leading up to this. Canada's so progressive, it wants to let everybody just choose to end their lives. There were stories of the Canadian government offering maids. They call it maids. They don't call it mercy killings like the Nazis did. Yeah. They call it maids, medical assistance in dying. Veterans would call up Veterans Affairs with PTSD.
Oh my!
And they would offer them death. And then they say, oh, that was a one-off, yada, yada. It's not a one-off because you want to expand this to mental illness, which includes PTSD. There was a woman who had what they call multiple chemical sensitivity. She couldn't get a proper housing accommodation, which would have no smoke, no chemicals. She elected for and received death.
Oh my
There was
God.
a woman who they featured in that ad from Simon's Clothing. And it was called Beauty and Everything. This 27-year-old woman who chose to die with dignity because she had an illness, not terminal, like hardening of the arteries. It's painful. They put her to death. It came out after she died that she didn't want to die. She put up posts as, I feel like I have no choices. The government's not providing for me.
Holy
I
crap.
interviewed a woman, Kayla Pollock, who was permanently debilitated with what's called transverse myelitis from a certain procedure, which we all know all too well now. Permanently paralyzed, at first told it was in her head, and then after the government comes in and says, have you thought about killing yourself? You've been paralyzed as a result of basically what was mandated by the government, coerced by the government. We're no longer going to take care of you. It's going to be cheaper to kill you. Have you thought about killing yourself?
Oh my God!
So this story,
it sounds like
She
a common.
didn't.
She didn't, and
didn't.
we've
She
raised
lied.
her a lot of money. It's Kayla Pollock. I interviewed her. The story's tragic. This story that I just read yesterday was posted by Post Millennial of a woman who suffers from autism who got authorization to kill herself. And her father petitioned the court to issue an emergency injunction to injunct her not to take her own life via the doctors.
Autism.
She has autism. And I thought in the article, like, okay, well, it's not a proven fact. The father says she's got autism. I read the judgment. It was accepted as judicial fact she had autism with cognitive impairments. She was denied euthanasia on her first two attempts. One doctor said yes, another doctor said no. She goes, finds another panel. One says yes, one says no. She does it a third time. Third time's a charm. Both say yes. The father gets an injunction. The judge yesterday lifted the injunction, but he stayed the lift of his injunction, so she still can't do it for 30 days. It's It's Nazi era level stuff.
I agree.
You euthanize the mentally ill, euthanize people with handicaps. It's not it's gone from the intended purpose of people who are on death's door and nothing but suffering, people with ALS who are going to be incapacitated to the point where they won't be able to do it later on, to this progressive level like, hey, mentally ill, you're depressed. You have the suicide hotline in Canada, and I make the sick. The cynical joke. I mean, is it to help people or is it to get a list?
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, I'm thinking of killing myself. Well, don't
this
do
number.
it. But if you're mentally ill, do it. I mean,
Call this number.
Call
Oh
this
my
number.
God.
So that's the latest going on in Canada. It's shocking. Blackface Hitler has already trended. I don't know what needs to trend for this to get the eye of the world. But Canada's a leading state in state-sanctioned murder.
And if that doesn't go to Brandon's point, where they're not even hiding, it's overpopulated. They're trying to depopulate as much as they can. He's a globalist, freaking Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
And what more of a bro? If you have a mental disorder, how can you mentally decide to stay alive or kill yourself? Those people they're
And
off.
kids, you said about the youth. What are they trying to do with the youth? They're trying
to expand it to minors.
Oh my!
Minors who are
depressed
eligible.
from being on
justification?
TikTok.
The justification, minors who can't consent, so you get the consent of their parents. When they made the joke about post-birth abortions, I mean, you've literally entered the realm where Babylon Bee has become reality.
Oh my!
Well, I think when you basically expand all law to be about choice, where it's like, it's the end result, the logical conclusion of liberalism, because liberalism is all about your own personal choice and your own personal feelings matter more than universal understandings of good. So if you feel like you're so depressed that you want to commit suicide, you should be given the choice. You should be given the freedom to. So it's the state doesn't have the right, or parents don't have the right to intervene and say, no, you should not kill yourself, because who's to say whether killing yourself isn't the right option?
Yeah.
This is such a twisting of morality, but it is their version of morality, which is you have the absolute right to do anything you want.
Well, it's the end result of not valuing life and not thinking that life is something beautiful that needs to be protected, except in the most extreme circumstances. But life is not to be protected, and it becomes cheaper for the government to end somebody's life than to provide them treatment. The system can't handle it now. And so there was an article in the CBC, the Canada Broadcasting Corporation, the state-run media, that said, no, it won't cost us any more money. It might actually save us money. No shit, Sherlock. That's part of the incentive for the government now to say it's cheaper to kill than to treat. And that's what happens in socialized medicine. That's what happens when you no longer value life. And it's basically the downfall of any morality in society.
And bro, if you think about it, like, is Canada just that bored? They got nothing. They got nothing else going on with it. Maybe they need to go to war. Just do something to get your mind off of some shit like that. What are they doing up there?
Also, David, did you see that bill a couple weeks ago that tried to get passed in the House by the Liberals about giving life sentences for hate speech?
Oh no, that was the online
safety.
the online
That was
harms
Online
act.
safety,
Same
which
thing,
is
yeah.
absolutely
Same thing.
ridiculous.
So
it's only intended. I say not. I don't go with the population control, because what they're trying to do in the meantime is say, oh, the population of Canada isn't growing, so we need to import double the population by 2100. It's politics. I mean, it's for political gain, obviously. But it's fundamentally immoral. And I'm glad at least mainstream legacy media, Forbes, is drawing the connection, because the Nazis did it. They called it mercy killings, and they started with the handicapped.
Yep.
They started with the impaired,
Elderly,
who
the
couldn't- who
impaired,
couldn't-
yeah.
And by the way, to get a little Alex Jonesy, they're also passing laws in provinces which is removing consent for organ donation.
Weird.
And so now you say, like, okay, well, go kill yourself, and we'll harvest your organs
We'll take your
afterwards.
organ.
It's a triple saving. We don't have to treat you. We can kill you, and we can harvest your organs afterwards.
Progress.